Alright, welcome everyone to the Hearthstone.fi Monday Night Community Tournament number 22. This is semifinal number 1 with Korodax versus ajmer, Poland versus Germany. As you can see, I'm already in chats with the players about how the matches are gonna get going. But before we get the match started, I'm gonna quickly go ahead and tell you guys about the format, about what we're gonna see, and what classes the players have brought, and so on and so forth. So, first off first, best of 5 series, so the players will need 3 wins to go ahead and put themselves into the final. This is the conquest format, so once you win with a deck, you are not allowed to replay it. The interesting thing here is that ajmer, the Polish player, has already used 3 classes, Druid, Hunter, and Rogue, while Korodax, the German player, has actually only used Paladin and Warlock during this whole tournament, so he has gone with 2 classes thus far. He will need a third one. We will see a third one in case he wins the series, but if he ends up losing with only those 2 classes, we will never know what his third one would have been. But yeah, pretty much that's the setup. Best of 5 conquest. I'm gonna go ahead and tell the players they can start playing. And while we wait for the players to get going, I'm just gonna quickly remind you what this is all about. The Hearthstone.fi Finnish Hearthstone community is organizing the tournament with the help of Fraktio, a Finnish web services provider. So go ahead and check them out if you're ever looking for web services. And the tournament is played for 50 euros for the winner, and of course the main prize of them all being the WCS points for Blizzard's BlizzCon. These points are awarded in such a fashion that the first player will get 10 points, second player will get 5 points, and the third and fourth players will get both 1 point. Fairly straightforward, fairly easy to remember. When we start looking at the starting hands of both players, Koroda is obviously playing a Zoo Warlock. Fairly aggressive stuff, Leper Gnome into Knife Juggler into probably just some 3-drop for turn 3 coming up. Double Paladin Shredder, not the optimal thing to see when you're playing a very aggressive deck, but they are strong sticky minions, so we'll have to wait and see how it pans out. I'm playing the popular Oil Rogue. This matchup is actually pretty 50-50. If the Zoo Warlock is able to overrun the Rogue fast enough, force them to use their AoEs inefficiently, it might well swing in the favor of the Warlock. But on the other hand, ajmer is holding on to both the Fan of Knives and the Blade Flurry and has the capability to heal himself up, draw some more cards, and keep clearing the board with his own hero power. It is looking fairly good right now. The Knife Juggler probably gonna get removed with just a redo dagger into a deadly poison. There's no reason to feed the Earthling Farseer into the 3-2. And these jugglers really are a great big priority to get out of the field before taunts appear in the way, stopping them from being killed. There we go, the Dagger Mastery into Deadly Poison gonna be the reality. Now what the old Rogue is right now missing are his game-ending cards, so to speak. Stuff like the aforementioned Oil, Tinker Sharpsword Oil. And his curve is a bit on the heavy side, missing SI7 agents, things like that. So we'll have to wait and see what comes up. An Eviscerate would be really nice against these Paladin Shredders. The Loatheb not gonna do a whole lot. With Koroda's turn being just a coined out Paladin Shredder, he does have the advantage of having the 2-drops come from the Shredders fairly consistently. The 3-2 would be able to optimally trade into the 3-3 if he wanted to, but he's taking a small risk with the Implosion, and this time the risk is probably not going to pay off, because the fact that now this 3-1 will do the trade into the 3-2 by itself, getting some value there. Only the 1 month left on the field. Since he played the Azadrake though, this does mean he will prep out the Fan of Knives, and the Fan of Knives will be able to the board completely without having to sacrifice the Earthling Farseer at all. And now at this stage it is looking very, very good for the old Rogue. Since as Zoo Warlock you usually want to be fighting for board control as aggressively as you can, and thus far the Rogue has been able to clear his board completely, this Nerubian Egg on the other hand probably going to be able to provide some sort of stickiness to the board. Even if ajmer ends up using another AoE, he will have to deal with the 4/4 that pops up from the Nerubian Egg, so it's a fairly strong play onto this board at this time. And this Azure Drake will be stopped with the Void Walker, so it cannot handle the Knife Juggler. He needs a backstab, and he has a backstab in order to deal with the Juggler efficiently. Probably gonna just use the Violet Teacher in combination to start milling out those 1/1 minions that are really annoying to deal with. Maybe if the Warlock is running Mortal Coils, he might be able to trade them into the Violet Apprentices and draw more cards, but it's still not very efficient. Since you want to taunt up the Nerubian Egg to pop out the 4/4, suspecting a Haunted Creeper into the Defender of Argus and clearing out the 1/1 Apprentice, yep, definitely that's the best possible play. Had he gone for the Pilot Shredder into the Haunted Creeper as well, it would not have been as efficient as trade possibilities go. Since the Pilot Shredder would have probably been too late to actually handle the Violet Teacher or anything else that pops out. I like these taunts a lot more, forcing the opponent to handle the Nerubian Egg as well. And the 4/4 that comes out of it. Now, he does have the Eviscerate that he can combo out, nicely destroy the 4/4. He might even go for the Blade Flurry here, because he has a Spell-Powered Drake up. With the double Drake, it means 3 damage to all of the opposing player's board. And you're facing a Zool Warlock with just 1 card, so he's being forced to just tap each and every turn from now on. Luckily for him though, he gets the Golem, which is perfectly on curve. This 4/3 Shredder actually threatens the Violet Teacher and both the Drakes. I don't know, maybe the old Rogue doesn't feel pressured that much, but considering there's 6 damage on the board, you're at 14 hit points. A single Doom Guard is 5 damage. If you tap into Dark Bomb from there, that's possible. Let me just answer Danny Freak. He's the player from the other semifinal, who we will be seeing later. Of course we're gonna give him... Excuse me. Of course we're gonna give him the chance to keep playing ranked while he waits for it to happen. Now with this Sludge Belcher up, the Rogue player is fairly safe behind the taunt wall. When you're playing against the Zoo, they usually don't have, oh man, many cards able to deal 5 damage other than Doomguard, and there we go, Doomguard pops out. Now even with this Doomguard though, it might not be enough. There's 4 4s on the table for 12 damage and then 4 additional for 16. He would have to destroy at least one of them. At least, and even then there's still 12 damage on the board, so he would need some sort of way to handle all of them. So with this tap, nope, it's nothing that would be able to kill the Apprentice or anything else. And even if he had been able to kill the smallest threat, then the Dagger Up would have still finished them, even if there had been no direct damage in ajmer's hand. So this time the old Rogue takes it. It is a mid-range deck versus a aggro deck, so the mid-range deck usually ends up winning in these matchups. Nothing too special. And a very straightforward, strong performance from ajmer as well. No misplays from either player in my opinion. It's fairly obvious that they're both very experienced. Legendary player and rank 1 player at the current stage. Now since the Rogue has been eliminated from ajmer, just making sure the players are aware of the rules. They have been playing best of 3 thus far, So that's the reason why he probably asked me whether or not he wants to, or gets the chance to use 5 decks. Because of the fact that best of 5 requires 3 wins, you only just need 3 decks. The previous rounds have been best of 3 just to spare some time, because if we were to play a 128 player best of 5 tournament, that would take ages longer than it does currently. I would of course like the tournament to be best of 5, but realities really don't allow for that. If we had a 64 player tournament, then maybe we could do that, but I don't want to let out people into a really small tournament. Especially when we're playing for such a big prize as WCS points. So, Koroda has faith in his Zulok, and ajmer plays with the very popular Face Hunter in this current meta. Turn 2, probably gonna Z-Glaive Zuka, just pop down there. Buff his Mad Scientist a little bit, start to go for the who gets to deal more damage to the face game. This Elven Archer, this is definitely something that you don't see every day. It's usually considered a fairly low value minion. Maybe decks like Hobgoblin might run Elven Archer, but even then it's... Some would consider the 1 mana be 1 damage, and that's it over something like Wisp. So it's a very low impact card. Even in a Zoo deck, it's not considered usually play worthy. With this Direwolf Alpha down on the field, he will probably remove the 3/2 Mad Scientist, there we go, just so he'll have to use the weapon to attack into the wolf. And this will provide Koroda with very important tempo against something like a Face Hunter. Because of the fact that the Face Hunter really does want to attack into as much face damage as he can. Now, unbeknownst to Koroda though, there is an explosive trap up, so everything on this board will just get demolished no matter what. ajmer prizes the 3 mana Unleash the Hounds worth 4 points of damage at this stage of the game. I don't blame him. The kill command plus the Eagle Horn bows and the second Unleash the Hounds makes his hand very top heavy when it comes to mana. So playing one of those hounds for just 4 damage is completely fine. Now, giving this Flame Imp the power overwhelming means that now that he attacks into the face, he will trigger the trap harmlessly and be able to Void Terror out the Flame Imp for great big stats. 4 hit points, 8 attack value. He's left at 14 himself with a 1/1 Hound on the opposing side of the board, unless he uses the Elven Archer to clear it out. If he does end up using the Elven Archer, then he can't play this Void Terror though, so of course we're gonna see the Void Terror come out. With the Hound, he can activate the kill command, but that's still just 5 + 7, 8 damage, and 8 damage is not enough to finish off Koroda right now. On the other hand, Koroda is holding on to 2 damage + 10, so that's still not enough to kill ajmer. It's anybody's game at this stage. 3 mana Wolf Rider or 3 mana Eagle Horn Bow, both basically as effective as each other. This Abusive Sergeant probably gonna get combined with one of these 3 mana cards. Since the Eagle Horn Bow has 2 charges, he should probably play the bow first, given that you can utilize that without it being removed. This Wolf Rider can be removed from the board. On the other hand, do you want to build more presence, just for there to be more targets for Koroda? I think against a Zulok, it doesn't really matter what guys you have on the field. They might have something like a small charging minion or something that deals straight up damage, but I do agree with the Eagle Horn Bow play. It has the two charges, it's ready for the next turn as well, and there's less risk involved. Now the Elven Archer, of course, gonna go ahead and remove the dog because of the fact that it is a beast, and he wants the beast to be off the table, so it cannot activate this kill command. Had he not removed that beast, the kill command would be 5 damage, and he would need 3 more. It's not quite enough with the steady shot, and he cannot go through the taunts with the Unleash. He doesn't top deck an owl. Had he drawn an owl into his hand, he would have won this match immediately, because that would be 2 mana to silence down the Void Terror, then use this 2/1 Abusive Sergeant to remove the opposing taunted archer, Go for 3 damage with the Eagle Horn Bow, and then pop down the kill command for 5. Since the owl is a beast. Unfortunately, no such luck. We are at a tie of 1-1, where Korodax Zoo Warlock takes win number 1. Now this means that we're probably going to see the Paladin from Korodax, because his third class, remember, he has not said what it is. So he's free to pick basically any class there is for the third one, when the last matchup comes. Now for ajmer, he has the Druid or the Hunter still left. He knows he's probably going to be facing Paladin, so I would actually expect him to go for the Druid. Since the face Hunter versus mid-range Paladin, it's probably going to be a Quartermaster Paladin with heal bots and taunts and stuff like that. It's going to be a tougher matchup than with the Druid against the Paladin, depending on the version of Druid, of course. If it's Force of Nature, Savage Roar combo deck, or something other, we'll have to wait and see. Alright, Koroda's third class revealed. It is a mage, and it is a mech mage. Very popular in this meta, and a perfect curve to begin with. The only downside here being that the gnome might not be enough to activate the 3 mana 4/4, so that's the reason why he goes ahead and pops out the 3 mana drop in favor of another card, getting the Mirror Entity. And there's the Tinkertown Technician making a comeback. Just gonna go ahead and write down the class, so just a second. Thus far, no big surprises from any players. The Shade and Naxxramas talks in favor of combo. Black Knight in this meta usually very useful against Sludge Belchers. Pretty much every deck runs some sort of taunt. The Clockwork Gnome not actually being removed since he uses Coin Wild Growth, and on this turn 3 he can now pop the Shade of Naxxramas down early. But this does mean that for turn 3 there is an activator for the Tinkertown Technician. So this is one of these things that you have to really ponder what you favor in a situation like this. Do you want there to be a mech to activate all these battle cries, or do you want to play your own game, so to speak, and start ramping up as fast as you can? Now, drawing into this Innervate means that he has the possibility to play the bigger drop, but Black Knight still has no targets. This Keeper of the Grove could be used to either kill either one of these minions or silence maybe the trap away. Let's see what happens. There we go. You value silencing the trap away in this situation very highly. I do understand why he plays it. And with the Innervate, he's now able to destroy the Clockwork Gnome, because on turn 4 you could expect there to be the Goblin Blast Mage. The Goblin Blast Mage means free 4 damage. And you don't want to... Ah, there we go. You don't want to take that 4 damage to your face, or in the worst case possible, it would just kill off the Shade or something that usually would not be able to handle it. Whirling Blades into the Mad Scientist, no reason not to play it. It is one of those not so valuable spare parts, so to speak. You could, in theory, hold on to it for the Antonidas finishers, but this matchup probably favors the early game damage a bit more. On turn 6, there's an... on turn 5, there's no mech to activate Blast Mage, so we're probably just going to see Snowjugger into Spider Tank. Since these druids have been known to run a couple tech cards like Mind Control Tech, you are taking a risk in placing 4 minions down on the board. If the MC Tech comes down, you will lose tempo, you will be in a bit of a really risky position, but... Alright, since he very well knows that it is a mirror entity, he still decides to go for the Sludge Belcher drop. And actually activates the Shade to remove the opposing Scientist with the 3/2 stats. That's sort of risk in it, due to the fact that now the Mage was just able to utilize their hero power and take out that big threat that was on the board, but I do understand why he did the mirror entity, especially, well, now that he's shown it to you guys as well. The Black Knight getting great value there. You don't even have to expect the other player to play it. Now, considering that he has the Blast Mage, he should probably play that first. Opting to utilize the 4/2 for exact damage and then the 3/4 to take care of the Taunter. That's interesting enough. Now with the Frostbolt played first, there's a 50% chance that the Black Knight will also get removed. This time, nope. The Black Knight still stays on the board, but it is frozen, so no big worries there. And on turn 7, we will definitely see Dr. Boom. If you got the mana for Boom, you should always play it, pretty much. Stuck with double Force of Nature without combo. So this is a double combo druid. Double combo is something that not everyone runs currently. It's a bit tricky to get maximum value out of it. And if you're stuck in a situation where, like ajmer, you only have double Force of Nature and no Savage Roars, you might be forced to use them defensively. And that's less than optimal, so to speak. Dr. Boom. And then go for face damage with the 3-1. Nope, opts to go for the trade. When you trade the 3-1 into the 4-1, this means that a single Wrath would not be enough to eliminate this Dr. Boom. I totally understand why he does the play. Wrath or Swipe. Swipe would have been actually the worst possible option, because then the 3-1, the 1-1s, and the Dr. Boom would have all been destroyed, and that would have been the end of that match. Also, by running the 3-1 into the 4-1, it enables him to dodge the possible MC tech the Druid might be running. So it's a pretty good dodge right there. At 8 mana, the Druid Claw with the taunt would enable you to survive the onslaught of the Dr. Boom attack. What else? Force of Nature not able to do much right now. This Azure Drake, if he plays it, then he's just looking for answers from the top of his deck. So the more conservative play is to go with the Druid Claw taunt. The more aggressive, risky, maybe even winning play would be to go for the Azure Drake. What could he draw for 3 mana? Let's see. At 3 mana, the Druid probably doesn't have much except for the Wrath and maybe a 3-drop of some sort. The second Shade of Naxxramas is already in his hand though, so just playing the 5-drop and the 3-drop combined makes a lot of sense. The 7-7 will more than likely destroy... Actually will not destroy the 4-6 because the fact that the Fireball can be used offensively to remove with exact damage that taunter. You're left with 9 damage onto the field. Just go for face. You are no worries about combo potential. You're at 30 hit points. Even with the Shade of Naxxramas on the board, that's just 19 with the damage potential of the Force of Nature plus Savage Roar combo. Since 9 mana is exactly the amount that the Druid would usually require. And the Sludge Belcher top deck means that playing this as a Drake would not have helped him last turn, but now he's looking at a situation where he's basically forced to try and draw into an answer. This Innervate will enable him to play the Sludge Belcher, but that's probably not going to be enough to make a difference in this game. You could argue that making a Shade of Naxxramas into a Boom Bot attack might pay off, but it also could backfire spectacularly, given that it can remove even the 4-4 or do 4 damage to the face, and then you're basically giving them a game over. But if he decides to use the Shade of Naxxramas, he should either go for face or try and beat RNGesus by attacking into one of the boom bots. There we go. Where does it deal its damage? Only 1 damage, and to the Azure Drake. That's completely the best possible deal. Doesn't lose any minions, it's the minimum amount of damage, and it's not to the face. Currently, the only thing able to remove the 3-5 is the 4-4 attack into a hero power. That leaves the 1-2 up. So that would have to be risked with a Boom Bot attack. If you go for the Dr. Boom attack first, then you can utilize your... you can actually utilize your reversing switch with the 1-1 as well. It's interesting, though, that he didn't go for the 4-4 attack with the hero power. This does enable him to use the hero power as optimal removal at a situation where there weren't that many options available to him. And using off the emergency coolant as well, just so the Shade cannot trade into Dr. Boom or anything else on the board. There we go, there's the combo. Force of Nature, Savage Roar will be able to clear the board. It will destroy the 7-4, the 4-4, and the 2-3, leaving the Mad Scientist up. That will deal 2 damage. Actually, it won't deal 2 damage, since he removes it. Perfectly aware of the fact that it will spawn a mirror entity. Risking pretty much everything possible. If Koroda draws into a second Fireball or a second Frostbolt, the game is over. Druid the Claw for taunt into hero power with the Shapeshift, so he'll be able to stay alive for one turn. The Mirror Entity 4/6 will not be able to break down Druid of the Claw. He should not attack, he should definitely not attack into anything, he'll just be forced to use the Shade to pop this Divine Shield. 4/6 and 1/2, and now do we see the hero power being used on the minion or on the face? On the minion, yep, much more value in there. Unfortunately for Ajmer, the Shade of Naxxramas would die to the Druid of the Claw, but, and this is a big important but, it's the fact that he draws Wrath. Basically, he needs a Doomsayer from the Pilot Shredder if he uses the Wrath for 3 damage, because that's the only thing, or maybe some card that has 0 attack value, something like Nat Pagal or Lord Walker Cho. Those guys have 0 attack value, because anything above that, well, with the 1 attack value as well, you can argue that he'll still stay alive for 1 more turn. But it is grasping at straws, so to speak. If he doesn't clear the board completely, alright, he chooses to go for the Wrath option. And the draw, there's really only maybe Ancient of Lore to heal. That's the only card I can think of. Maybe even Ancient of War for 5/10. That would have been able to save him. But that is it. Koroda takes the lead 2-1 with his Mech Mage. The only hero available to him is now the Paladin, probably the mid-range Paladin. And he was really able to, well, read out what Ajmer would bring to the table. He saw that Ajmer would expect the Paladin, so he would go for the Druid. And against the Druid, he wanted to go with the more aggressive deck choice, so that's the Mage. So very well picked from Korodax, showing us his third deck only when it mattered. Now, Druid or Hunter versus Paladin. Well, like I said previously, you're probably going to take the Druid because that's a more favorable matchup for you. On the other hand, you have to win with both of those guys anyway. So, taking the Hunter out or taking the Druid out is pretty much actually the same thing, given that you have to take the win from both of those classes. Now, Koroda, holding on to the Juggler and the MC tech, with Ajmer looking at his options, he decides to go and mull out the Owl only. Glaive Zuka, pretty much the best 2-drop you can have if you have a minion on the board already. You're sort of wasting the Abusive Sergeant's Battle Cry on turn 1, but at least it gives you a target for Glaive Zuka to buff up. Oh lord, there's a Zombie Chow as well. Koroda has a very, very strong start with turn 1 Zombie Chow into turn 2 Shielded Minibot. Into turn 3, drop the Knife Juggler and the Shielded Minibot number 2 with the help of the coin. I don't think that the Face Hunter will be able to take this. It's looking very, very tough for him. The 3-1 will get removed with the 2-3. And we will see the Shielded Minibot coming down. Unless he values... Now, the downside to playing the Peacekeeper right now. Yes, you do get to keep your 2-3 on the board. But your turn 3 play becomes rather clunky. You don't really have anything except for Minibot or Juggler. And that means you're basically giving up the chance to juggle those knives on turn 3 with the coin. Does it end up mattering? Since it's Huffer, it doesn't actually end up mattering, because now the fact that you saved your Zombie Chow means that the Zombie Chow will be able to take out Huffer perfectly. Now, opting to use the attack from the weapon at this stage means that he's expecting to see maybe his second weapon, and if that had come down on turn 3, he would want to have played that. And of course, there is no reason to hold on to the 2 charge. weapon since you want to go for as fast damage as you possibly can. Now Ajmer's turn 4, also not optimal. You can go for the Infiltrator into Wolf Rider, try and push as much damage as you can, but the opposing Paladin is holding on to a Knife Juggler. And all of these minions are excellent targets for the Knife Juggler to take out. He's willing to take the risk though. You're pushing the opposing Paladin down to half hit points already. Now double Knife Juggler into 3 juggles means that all of those minions will more than likely be removed. And they are. Koroda able to turn the tides of battle in his favor. There's the Eaglehorn bow we talked about previously. You can go for the bow hero power right now, because I don't think you want to commit this Knife Juggler onto the board as of yet. It will be able to juggle with the Arcane Golem, and you are providing free pressure with the Steady Shot every turn. It is a free card, so to speak. He's holding on to 5 damage there, and with the Knife Juggler plus Arcane Golem, 5 damage from his hand. 8, it's not quite enough to deal 11 damage. Mustering right now makes a lot of sense. He gets a full board and the weapon, and he gets 3 times 2 damage out to the face. So that's 6 damage, 7 with the weapon. Not quite lethal yet though. One could argue for the Shielded Minibot hero power as well. Hold on to the Muster's potential for greater damage output with the Jugglers later on. But I don't think there's any reason not to play it. Your face... Oh, actually there is. If he's holding on to Unleash the Hounds. If he holds on to Unleash the Hounds and there's 7 minions on the board, then that means Unleash plus hero power is lethal. So that's a very good play from Koroda. Not playing down the Muster or the Shielded Minibot is actually the one thing that's holding him from being lethal if Ajmer has Unleash the Hounds. Because that, even with 1 minion, it would have been 5, 8, 10. Yeah, it would have been 1 off. And then he might have had something like an Arcane Shot, but still. This is the safest play. 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 9, and then he would require 2 damage. No way for Ajmer to stay alive. There's literally no way. The Mad Scientist cannot be popped. The Knife Juggler's juggles will do absolutely nothing. The Arcane Golem, even if it charges into one of these minions and kills it, it will still be more than 9 damage incoming next turn, especially with these double Jugglers and this Muster in Koroda's hand. So, we will see a 3-1 Koroda win in this matchup. Ajmer is only counting out his options, realizing and coming to this exact same end result as we have already. Taking out one of those Jugglers. In theory now, Koroda doesn't have the lethal, but in practice with the Muster, he does. And attacking with all of your minions first makes a lot of sense, because if the juggles hit the 2-2 and their big pops an explosive trap out, it would clear out most of that board. Doesn't end up mattering. Yes, you certainly did, Koroda. I'll just let him know that he is the winner of the Hearthstone.fi Monday Night Community Tournament number 22, semifinal number 1.